Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Women of Wrestling podcast here on Ring Bells. It's episode 52. It's Irish Stu Allen here. I've got Freaky Lee Burton with me.
Yo!
And Freaky, the word of the week is IPPV. That's not really a word, I know, but you know what I'm trying to say.
That's an acronym.
It is.
Is that an acronym?
It is an acronym, yes.
Okay, that's good.
iPay-per-view.
Yeah, it seems to be that the growing thing these days. The internet pay-per-view has now got to a point where it almost seems like almost inevitable that a lot of people are going to be holding iPay-per-views. And so this Friday we've got another one stepping into that massive ocean of iPay-per-views.
Yes, and we have for our guest on this show, John Thorne, who's one of the co-owners and promoters of the AIW brand. And he's going to come on and talk about Girls Night Out 8 and hopefully some of the history of Girls Night Out. But that's far from the only promotion that's talking iPay-per-view this week.
Indeed, there's quite a few rolling around in different continents, no less.
Yes. Last week, Shine returned to iPay-per-view over on WWNLive.com with their latest show, on which it was actually confirmed that Shimmer 53 from the WrestleCon events, WrestleMania weekend, will be on iPay-per-view, also on WWN Live.
We're just going back to Shine for a moment because it's probably worth mentioning. Shine's done 7 of these iPay-per-views now, so they're getting pretty slick at them. And you can tell now when you watch them that there's not going to be any problems. And it is essentially just like watching a show just on TV. And it really does make for an easy viewing experience. I mean, it's not the same as buying it and having it on your TV, but, you know, if you are technologically minded like that, you could still wire it through. But there's nothing wrong with having Shine as an iPay-per-view. Not at all. There's no worries about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, WWN Live. I think, to be honest with you, I mean, they have had some issues in the past. I think there was a recent Dragon Gate show, Dragon Gate USA show, I think maybe on the West Coast, that maybe had some issues as far as I remember. But for the most part, WWN Live is a reliable iPay-per-view provider. So is Smart Mark Video as well, and that's what's hosting Girls Night Out 8 this Friday. Another one to mention, though, as well, Lee, just before we go any further, making their announcement for iPay-per-view was Bellatrix.
Yeah, Bellatrix is going through a lot of sort of big changes at the moment. It's got big plans, and internet pay-per-view is one of them. This means that everybody's going to be able to see this show as it happens.
Yes, and it's going to be done. The thing about it is, Bellatrix, and we actually talked about this before any announcement was made, and before either of us would have talked to Saraya or anything like that, but we talked about the fact that the shows now are from a TV studio. They're from Epic Studios in Norwich, in England, and we figured that, you know, if it's a studio, presumably there's some sort of ability to broadcast from there.
Yeah, you'd think that there would be some kind of the net connections and things like that. So I remember being there early for Bellatrix 4 and just writing things up as a sort of preview piece so we could do some live updates. I couldn't find a plug anywhere. and that's because it's a TV studio. It doesn't have plug sockets. It's got massive connectors and everything like that. It has no need for plugs. I mean, this is a properly set up TV studio. It's purpose built for something like this.
Yeah. So again, it's an unknown provider as far as iPay-per-view is concerned to wrestling fans, and so, you know, hopefully everything will go fine for that. That's coming up. Bellatrix 5, which, funnily enough, is actually within a 24-hour gap from the next Shine show.
Yeah, so it's a bumper iPay-per-view weekend, that.
Yeah. I mean, iPay-per-view, I think we've talked about this before, and I've certainly heard people talking about this, but I fully believe that this is the way that wrestling is going. I think certainly something like Shimmer doesn't... normal Shimmer weekends I'm talking about here, it doesn't lay itself out as being really something that we can do iPay-per-view for, because they're running 4 shows across 2 days. But for the majority of shows, if you're running one show, I think as we become more and more technologically advanced, iPay-per-view is going to become more and more of an expectation from fans, I think.
I don't know whether that necessarily kills off the DVD market. I know that Shine cleans up their DVDs. Well, Shine cleans up their DVDs before they release them, so essentially getting a different viewing experience for it. So there is that, I suppose. You can get something else. And maybe it's something that if you're going to release it on DVD, you put some extra stuff on there as well, because, just to entice people to buy it. Like I said, Shimmer's probably not in a position that it's able to do iPay-per-views. But I think if you want to have that extra sort of DVD sale afterwards, like, I used to buy WWE pay-per-views and then buy the DVD as well. Because I wanted to keep hold of it, even though I may have recorded it from TV. Now, there's no reason why you still couldn't do that now, but I think now you probably should give somebody a little bit more on the DVD.
Yes, and I think even somewhere like WWN, they offer various sort of packages where you can get the live viewing only, or you can get the live viewing and video on demand, or you can get the live viewing, video on demand, and the DVD when it's released. So yeah, that option is there. But I think value added material does make a difference. But we're moving into the we're well into the 21st century now, but we're moving into a time and technology where I think physical media is becoming more and more obsolete. I think that's the way it will go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still grasping onto things. I know that you have a lot of the VOD stuff, and me, I still prefer to have a DVD itself. I guess I'm a little bit more old school in that way, but I just like to have the physical thing with me. It's like I actually have something as opposed to me just owning thin air.
Yeah, well, that's true. But from a storage point of view as well, it's nice to have stuff on a hard drive that you don't have to worry about storage for.
Do you know what? I'll grant you that. I had to buy a new cabinet recently because I've got so many DVDs.
There you go. But you did a little thing recently on Twitter, didn't you?
Yeah, it was through our Facebook and Twitter. It's not
not a
like
scientific poll, everybody.
No, it's not Maury. It's not a Maury poll or anything like that. That's Maury as in M-O-R-I, not the chat show host who tells you that you're not the father, by the way. What it is that I just asked, just quickly, just said, if you had the opportunity of either going to the show or buying it on iPay-per-view, which would you do? And for the most part, I think pretty much everybody, bar about one or two, said, I'd go to the show. And that's encouraging. It's not like iPay-per-view is becoming the replacement for going to a show. It's not like you're going to be having it in front of an empty building, for example. People, if you still book a show that people want to see and they can get to it, will go to it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If these shows are within a traveling distance for you, just go. And if they're not, then the fact that you can watch these shows live from the comfort of your own home, brilliant. Love it. I mean, for you and I, and for anybody in the UK, these pay-per-views often mean late nights. But
very late nights.
It's still a nice option to have, to be able to watch this stuff live rather than wait several months for DVD release.
I mean, having said that, AIW, this is their first iPay-per-view, so it's kind of, I guess the atmosphere sometimes comes to it a little bit different. You can see that on the Shine shows sometimes. People have their live accounts, and then there's the accounts of people who watched it on iPay-per-view and said the atmosphere is a little bit different. I think nothing beats being there in person.
Yeah. In fact, AIW is a perfect example, by the way, of a company who is sort of moving forward as far as technology is concerned. The first couple of Girls Night Out shows that I got were I think Girls Night Out 4 and Girls Night Out 5, and I think in both of those cases I'd ordered the DVDs from Smart Mark Video, and they had come through then, however long it took. The last one then, or actually no, it wasn't the last one, I think the last two, Girls Night Out 6 and Girls Night Out 7, I've got them both via downloadable MP3s from Smart Mark Video on demand, and they obviously are a lot quicker as well. Plus, when it's released, I can have it immediately. I don't have to worry for delivery times and stuff like that as well. So again, getting the product from the show to the fans who can't get to the show, the time is cut down each time, and now this one is going to be instantaneous. Yeah,
we are getting to that point now where people are becoming more impatient with stuff. It's like, why isn't that with me now?
I'm sorry, I can't wait for these things.
Exactly. I think people are saying, look, I've just ordered this now. Why can't I have this now? Well, now you can with things like video on demand, and you can watch them as they're happening, even if they're on another continent in the form of iPay-per-view. This just seems to be the way that things are going.
Do you remember the days of tape trading, my man?
I was never part of the tape trading world.
Really? Oh, I was, and that is the complete opposite to what I'm doing now. Where if I want a show on iPay-per-view or I want a show VOD, I can get them almost immediately or within maybe 24, 48 hours of it happening. But back in the day of tape trading, you would send off a speculative list to your tape trader, and you might be lucky to get back a bag of DVDs or sorry, a bag of VHS tapes. I beg your pardon, within about 28 days if you're lucky.
Like a month.
A month, yeah. I remember ordering some shows, and I used to order like big orders at a time, and I'd come home one day and all of a sudden there'd be like a big, massive, jammed jiffy bag full of VHSs, and it's like, oh, it's Christmas.
And so the backlog begins.
Yeah, that's where it all started, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but that's it. Then you spend the next month chipping away at these tapes, which are pretty grainy, I might add. They're probably maybe like fourth, fifth generation of tapes. At least now it's in crystal clear digital format. You could stick it in your TV and stick it in your surround sound speakers and enjoy the full experience of it. At least we're not in the videotape days. I really should throw out my VCR.
Yes, you should.
I can't even remember the last time I used it.
Wow. Well, there you go. But yeah, technology, everybody. And we're going to talk about that with John Thorne coming up. And if you want to get some information about the show, by the way, before we even get John on, AIWrestling.com is your place where you need to go. If you want to know about the actual video on demand, the iPay-per-view, go to SMVOD, that's Smart Mark Video on Demand, SMVOD.com. Or if you go to the Ringbell site, there's a nice little rotating GIF there with the information that you need.
Yeah, that'll just drop you right into the right place.
Yes. So, without further ado, or at least without too much further ado, let's get John Thorne on the show. All right, and we are back on the show now with our guest at this time. He is one of the owners and promoters of Absolute Intense Wrestling out of Ohio. And this Friday, as mentioned, he and his crew will be presenting Girls Night Out 8 on iPay-per-view, available on Smart Mark Video on Demand. Welcome, John Thorne.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. Yeah, it's the final week of preparation for you for this show, though. So, first question I have for you is quite simply how are the preparations going?
I don't think I will sleep for the rest of the week, to be perfectly honest with you. It's Wednesday right now when we're taping this. I probably won't sleep until Saturday.
That sounds
it's crazy.
That sounds like a lot of wrestling promoters we know. So, you got lots of things to be worried about. Is that what you're saying?
We're trying to get the word out to as many people as possible to make sure this thing's a success, and it's constantly nonstop, working on stuff, editing promos, all kinds of stuff.
It's weird, considering how potentially tense it all sounds. You sound pretty calm about the whole thing.
I mean, I can't let on how nervous I am about it, right? We're doing a podcast.
It's a fair point.
Cool, calm, and collected, right?
Yeah, you got to give the fans a reason to believe that they're safe spending their money, I guess.
I mean, I'm confident everything is going to work out great. I just there's a lot of things that we still have to dot the I's and cross the T's going into Friday.
Sure. You had a quick change on the card recently as well. Taylor Made was I think unable to appear. Addie Starr was added in. What was the reason for that? Was there any particular reason why Taylor wasn't able to make it?
She was having some transportation issues, and pretty much some things she wanted to renegotiate based on our original deal, and it was just something we couldn't do so late in the game, especially not knowing what the success is going to be of this. So, she unfortunately had to pull out, and, we kind of moved Addie Starr over to give her an opportunity. And we think, the Addie Starr story kind of makes the whole concept of the iPay-per-view a little interesting, considering, she's never even competed in AIW or Girls Night Out competition before, but she could leave her first night in the company as the number one contender.
That also meant that Jody DeMilo was out of an opponent because Addie Starr was moved into that match against Sassy Steph, and that has also created another opportunity for Angela Slane.
Yes, she's a lot of the girls have spoken quite highly of her. We'd been talking about adding her to a Girls Night Out, for the last I think at least the last 2 events, and it just hasn't worked out. And there was a small possibility that she was going to be added to the Climb the Ranks qualifier in a similar fashion to how Addie Starr was when we were putting the event together initially. And she had some scheduling problems or something like that, and we couldn't work it out. And, I guess whatever she had going on fell through right at the same time that TaylorMade pulled off. And, we were adjusting the card around, so we figured, we would give her the opportunity. And we're really, really looking forward to seeing what she can do, because she comes very highly recommended by a number of the girls on the roster.
Stu, we've seen Angela Slane wrestle, haven't we?
Yes, on the last set of Shimmer shows, plus I'd seen her on the previous Sparkles as well.
Yeah. So we know a little bit about Angela Slane, and we kind of have an idea what to expect. I think it's going to be a good addition to the show.
Yeah, I agree. I think both of these girls. I personally have not seen a lot of either of them, but they, like I said, they are both coming very highly recommended from different people I speak to, and a lot of people are saying that they're 2 very, very hungry girls that kind of want that big kind of moment to where people can get a look at them. So I think that this might be a match that could be a sleeper that seals the entire show.
It's kind of interesting how both of their situations are all about sort of seizing the opportunity, which is to a certain extent what this pay-per-view is all about.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we've built our entire company on, is giving people opportunities and taking a lot of weird chances throughout our existence, and I don't think this is going to be any different.
You mentioned about iPay-per-view as well, and Lee and I were talking about that before we brought you on the show, and there's a bunch of different companies all trying iPay-per-view at the minute, and some, like I'm thinking about WSU, for example, who used to be a fairly regular on iPay-per-view, have sort of stopped doing iPay-per-views recently. You're stepping into it for the first time now. How worried are you about this all coming off well, and what are your thoughts on iPay-per-view as the future sort of content delivery?
We actually stated at one point that we would never ever produce an iPay-per-view, just because the technology isn't always there. There's so much room for error. And, we were sticking to that, and we were approached by Smart Mark Video, actually. And, they kind of sold us on the idea. They've run a few iPay-per-views now, and they've all come off successful with very, very limited complications. And Mike Burns, who owns Smart Mark Video, he approached us about it. And it was his idea. It wasn't our idea to put this event on iPay-per-view. We were just going to run this event like normal. Smart Mark Video obviously has our schedule even before we release it to the public. And he had approached us, and he sold us on the idea. And I have nothing but faith in Smart Mark Video, especially since they've taken over production of all our DVDs. I mean, if you guys have seen the Girls Night Out events, I'm sure you guys can tell the production values have increased quite a bit from Girls Night Out 1, and that is all a credit to Smart Mark Video. Yeah. So I have nothing but faith in Smart Mark Video to deliver. They actually came out to our last regular AIW event, and they were running some tests to make sure they'll have a connection and things like that. So they've been doing a little bit of preventative maintenance, if you will, to make sure that this thing goes off without a hitch.
How much talking around did you take? I mean, how anti the idea of iPay-per-view were you?
If another company would have brought it to us, we would have said absolutely not. Like, we would not have even entertained the idea, just because you hear about even companies that have been doing fairly consistently lately. You hear so many problems that they've had in the past. So it didn't take a lot for Smart Mark Video to talk us into it, because, like I said, we have nothing but trust in them. They are 100% dedicated to independent wrestling. So I think that's another thing, is we have a lot of faith in them, because a lot of their success depends on our success as well. It's where if we went through a company, say for instance like Go Fight Live, we're just kind of paying them, and if it does bad, it does bad. But Smart Mark Video wants us to succeed, because if this succeeds, it does a lot more for them too. Last
year, the Girls Night Out shows, there was a there was talk for a while of the fact that AIW was sort of financially in not the greatest position, and there was a while there was like a hashtag Save AIW thing running on Twitter, and you were encouraging people, if they want to continue to see these shows and continue to see AIW in general, they should buy DVDs and all that sort of stuff, which is fair enough. But now, what's the financial situation of these shows? Is this a make or break show for AIW or Girls Night Out?
I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, like every show is make or break for AIW.
Fair enough.
I mean, with especially with independent wrestling, we're not gonna sit here and we're not gonna lie and say everything's great, and then one day nobody knows why we closed up. I mean, every event is show to show. Every dollar that we make off of AIW goes right back into the company. Like myself, the other people involved in the running of the events. We've never paid ourselves $1 off of any of these events. It's all 100% reinvested, and the more money that's there, the bigger risks we take. The more high caliber talent you see on the events. So Save AIW was 100% real. We had, I believe, it was a week of a Girls Night Out event, and we had thousands of dollars to raise to cover the budget in about 4 days, which was us kind of, I guess maybe it was irresponsible. I don't know, but we kind of booked this event thinking it was going to be the event at the time. It was gonna generate quite a bit of success, and the ticket sales aren't always there. You can't guarantee people are going to show up no matter how good the card looks on paper. And I mean, that's where we were at that point. I think for that Girls Night Out event, when we started the Save AIW campaign, we had 5 pre-sale tickets.
Jeez.
So I mean, that was 100% a reality. With iPay-per-view and things like that, we're hoping that this could, give us a little bit of a security blanket with the possibility of bringing in more revenue and things like that. But every show is make or break, and if an independent wrestling company is lying and saying it's not, they're lying to you, because there's no companies, I would say, outside of Ring of Honor and Chikara and Shimmer are probably doing big business to where they're 100%. They are confident that they're going to have money and they have no financial issues.
It's quite interesting then that you go from a year ago with Save AIW with, like I said, 5 pre-sale tickets for a Girls Night Out show to the point where your first pay-per-view is going to be a Girls Night Out show. It sounds like you've got a lot of faith in the brand and the women who are involved in it.
We have 100% faith in the Girls Night Out brand. I've said this on other interviews I've done and things like that. We were initially not fans of women's wrestling.
Get off this show.
We were kind of, we were the stereotypical, like, I guess, detractor of women's wrestling. It just wasn't for us. And Haley Hatred really was pushing us on the concept and pushing us on how different it could be, and then what we've kind of stereotyped it as. And after we did the first one, and we saw we saw the visibility it got our company, and we saw that their girls were totally different than what you see on WWE or TNA. There were girls that were actually going out there and wrestling and putting on great performances, and it's something that did a total 180 on us, and we've fallen in love with it. It's kind of like Girls Night Out is something we look forward to doing more than our regular shows at this point.
The first Girls Night Out show was the 15th of May 2009. Are you basically saying there that it was basically Haley Hatred that strong armed you into having this first show?
She had been pitching it for a while. We developed a relationship with her, through mutual friends and things like that, and we started bringing her in and having her wrestle guys. Because we were aware that she'd been going to Japan, she'd been wrestling a very hard hitting style, and we thought that was something that we can market. We actually didn't have all female match until our 3-year anniversary show, which was kind of the test for a Girls Night Out. We did Haley Hatred versus Mickey Knuckles, which was our kind of first kind of, dipping our toes in the water of women's wrestling. And she had really, really been pushing us to do an all women's event. And it was just something that we didn't know if we could pull off. I mean, at the time, AIW was very, 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 very low on finances. I mean, we were booking mostly localized talent. We were a localized company, just kind of focused on, running Cleveland, Ohio. There were various different independent companies running Cleveland. So it was kind of like we didn't see the big picture in wrestling. We were concerned with, the little localized kind of Cleveland wrestling wars, outdrawing the company that's, up the street and things like that. We didn't, we weren't looking and paying attention that there's a whole world of fans out there that we should be going after. So Haley was kind of pushing us for it, and we were toying around with the idea, but back to the localized wrestling thing, we actually had access to this photo bucket for a competing company, and they didn't know that we knew about it. They would upload their posters and things to get proofread by people, and they actually had a flyer with a few women's wrestlers on it. So we thought that they were going to do a women's show, and this was kind of an idea we were toying with and we weren't sold on, and that kind of pushed us. And that night we got with Haley and we booked the first girls' night out event, within I think an hour or two, and we threw it all together, like very, very, very little thought put into it. We just wanted to beat them to the punch, so to speak. And it turned out that they didn't run a women's event. They had booked April Hunter to do an autograph signing or something. And but that's why the first girls' night out there was only 8 girls booked, because that's all that we could get together on that short of period of time. And once that came out, I think it's still our highest selling DVD of all time.
Really?
So once we did that, it's something that we really wanted to take time and develop.
You talked about how you, as a promoter, were sort of hard to sell on the idea of women's shows. What about the fans? Have you found it difficult to sell the idea of these Girls' Night Out shows to your regular AIW fans, or do you get a different sort of brand of fans? Do you get a bunch of women's wrestling fans coming to the Girls' Night Out shows who then don't go to your regular shows?
It's a mix. When we first started, we were intermixing male matches, and that was kind of us, similar to how Haley Hatred held our hands and kind of eased us into the concept of this is a good idea, like this is something we should be doing. We kind of have been trying to do the same thing with our regular fans over the years, and that's why I think up until Girls' Night Out 6, there were always kind of male matches. So we could have something that drew in our regular fans that weren't necessarily sold on the idea of women's wrestling, and we would draw in the primarily women's wrestling fans. And over that time, we've been able to kind of convert a decent portion, not all, but a decent portion of our regular fan base to come and support these events, and they've in turn become fans of women's wrestling.
What's been the biggest problems then, for the last sort of few years of putting these shows on? What's been the biggest problem that you've encountered as far as sort of promoting women's wrestling? Is there anything that's sort of stuck out as being different from what you usually do?
The thing that's just different is, we'll run these normal events. We'll run 10 to 11 events a year, primarily with the same, the same group of guys. With the women's shows, we're trying to space them out to where we're not overdoing the concept. So we'll only do 2 or 3 a year, and we kind of have different relationships with some of the girls to where, some girls will only see twice a year, but those girls will promote their appearances a lot more than the regular guys. It seems like the girls really care about getting fans to the shows and things like that. But I guess the biggest kind of difference between the shows is, I guess budgeting. Girls aren't in Cleveland. A lot of girls aren't within driving distance of Cleveland. So there's a lot more travel expense for us with flights and things like that. So I guess primarily, it's just the travel, because, these girls are spread out pretty much all over the country.
Is it because of the logistics of something like that, which is why there was a sort of year-plus gap in between Girls' Night Out 2 and Girls' Night Out 3?
Yeah, and, that was definitely not anything, against the Girls' Night Out brand, but those, that time was we were going through some managerial changes. I'm the only original owner left from the beginning of AIW. We've gone through different partners, and we've gone through attempted to work with people to invest in the company and things like that. And when those people disappear, you got to kind of reevaluate your entire game plan. So we were going through. At that time, we were going through, one of the original owners of AIW had left. He actually, had hacked into our PayPal accounts, and, he stole everything we had saved up in PayPal and kind of disappeared. So we were going through quite a bit of financial turmoil at that time. And it was just something, where we were regrouping and trying to get our footing together with just running shows, let alone trying to do a big Girls' Night Out event.
What's been your favourite one so far that you've done? I mean, we've now got 7 in the can. What one do you think best represents what you're trying to do?
I mean, it sounds kind of, I guess cliche or whatever you want to call it, but the last one 100%, because I think every single one you can kind of see that we move forward instead of taking a step backward. Each one I think has gotten better, and I think if you go back and watch 1 through 7, you could see that you could see our learning curve, and you can see us trying different things, and you could see us trying to develop the brand. So I think up at least at this point, each one has been better than the last.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think I've done reviews for the last 4 for the website, and I've sort of always mentioned that. I think in every one of them that you can see where you guys are moving forward each time. One thing actually, just on that point, I'll mention it because it was one of my big bugbears when I watched Girls' Night Out 4. Was commentary from Aaron Bauer. I remember I've had a bit of a moan about that on the review. He was playing a heel character, obviously, but it was quite misogynistic commentary. He was perving over the girls, and it was like you kind of felt a little bit like, really, I'm buying a woman's show and you're kind of making me feel dirty for doing so. And he's completely, like, over the last few shows, changed that and made it much more. I'm actually a fan of his, and I think he does a really good job with the shows. But when I first heard it, I really didn't like it, and that's an example of, I guess you guys improving show by show.
Yeah, that was him. He took his regular, I guess, shtick, if you want to call it, and tried to, put it into the Girls' Night Out brand, and it's something that rubbed people the wrong way. And we sat down and we worked on adjusting that to where it would work, because that was him, and I guess us to an extent not knowing any better, to the fact that he couldn't go how he was on our regular shows, and we couldn't just input that into these Girls' Night Out events. And him do the same exact thing and not expect any negative backlash. It's almost like Girls' Night Out and AIW are almost 2 completely different companies at this point. So we've made adjustments with him and with various other things, but that was definitely something that was addressed through us going out and seeking out people reviewing our DVDs on the internet, because to be perfectly honest, we didn't know any better. We didn't know that he was doing anything wrong. He was just doing, his regular shtick that appeals to primarily the majority of our normal DVD buyers.
Sure.
And doing it on the Girls' Night Out events, which, we quickly learned is something that cannot happen anymore.
You mentioned about adjustments there. What other things have you kind of noticed over the shows and thought, right, okay, we can tweak this and make this better? I
mean, it's just, I think the talent pool is a lot different than what we started. We're now, we're all actively seeking out, women's wrestling DVDs and videos, and scouting different talent, and paying attention to a lot more than we were initially with, basically all we had to go on was Haley Hatred saying we should do this, and us doing it. We've educated ourselves just over the years, and working with somebody like Sarah Del Rey and, having veterans like that around us, really opened our eyes to a lot of different possibilities that we can do. And it's just been a constant educational process for us.
One change that you guys made in one of the recent shows, and I don't know if it's been kind of like either dropped or possibly just de-emphasized, was the whole idea of the win-loss records being important. That was sort of pushed as being one of the big concepts in the last year. I haven't really seen it mentioned much in the build-up to this show.
Well, that's kind of the whole point to our climb the ranks concept is, we still actively use a leaderboard, just in Girls Night Out competition, but the whole point of this entire iPay-per-view is to kind of spice that up a little bit. With us running so few Girls Night Out events, some of the people that were ranked high, a lot of people did not feel were proper contenders for Allison Kay, which we were having her defend her title on our regular shows throughout 2012. And, I specifically remember, just based on a win-loss record, Casey Warfield had the best record, best percentage, and people were outraged by this. But, we were trying to stick to, this concept, and people didn't necessarily like it. So we kind of came up with this climb the ranks ladder match concept to kind of incorporate it a little bit, but spice it up to where, now anyone can kind of leave as a contender no matter where they're ranked. Yeah,
that makes sense. As far as previous talent, you're talking about the talent pool, and certainly you guys have gone through a number of different sort of changes in talent over the years. What's the current situation with Mickey Knuckles, former Absolute Women's Champion? Obviously, she headed off to have a child. Is there a chance that she's going to be back at some point?
It's kind of funny. Like in the way wrestling works is you can fall in and out of touch with people so quickly. I spoke to her after she gave birth to her child, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't spoken to her that much. As much as I used to, just because I think she's concerned with being a mother. From what I read, that she is coming back to wrestling or is back. I'm not sure, but I think she's just kind of focusing on her like localized shows and maybe getting a ring rust off or whatever. I think when she's ready to come back, she'll contact us and we'll pick up right where we left off. But I mean, at this time, I don't have much of a relationship, at least, corresponding with Mickey Knuckles.
What about Jessica Havoc? I mean, that's another former champ of yours who doesn't work your shows anymore. What's the current situation between AIW and Jessica Havoc from your perspective?
I mean, I think it's kind of where it was. She had gone on, I believe it was this podcast, and had a lot of negative things to say about AIW, which I feel were unjustified. I think she knows they were unjustified. My personal opinion is she was, trying to drum up a little bit of controversy to sell some WSU iPay-per-views. We've spoke, and she's apologized for the things she said. She went on several podcasts that week and kind of had a lot of negative things to say about us, which were definitely unjustified because up until that point we were unaware that there was an issue with Jessica Havoc. She just kind of quit accepting our dates one day, and that's all we really knew. And then she kind of went and did a little podcast loop and had a lot of negative things to say about us. I mean, things are fine. I suppose I wouldn't expect to see her in an AIW ring anytime soon, just because I just think that personally we can have a relationship, but I just don't think professionally there's anything there for us in the future. Just based on her going out of her way to kind of address whatever issue she had with us on podcasts rather than coming to us directly. Someone else we had on this podcast and we talked about this with her, and
And Dave Prazak even on the Christmas show talked about it as well. The nose breaking incident from Girls Night Out. I think it was Girls Night Out 5 with Alison Kay. I mean, that became a bit of a happy accident because it turned Alison Kay into this main eventer for you.
I mean, that was just one of those things that happened, and it has turned Alison Kay into a superstar. Alison Kay, I'm fully confident is going to be the girl, if she's not already the girl, in women's professional wrestling. In 2013, especially in the United States. And that was just one of those things that happened. And I remember when it happened, she was leaving to the hospital, and I grabbed my cell phone and I said, "Hey, look at me." And she looked, and I took a picture of it. And she said, "Why did you do that?" And I was just like, I have an idea. And, she went to the hospital, and I uploaded it to our Facebook, and that thing pretty much went viral. Being shared on Facebook and comments, and people talking about it on social media. And I feel that Alison Kay and Mia Yim made the Girls Night Out brand. I feel like we were still learning, and we were definitely not a major player in women's professional wrestling. I think some people watched the shows, but I don't think people considered us something to go out of their way to see. I think that incident that turned into a main event feud for us, that gave us our first kind of big storyline that people were invested in. And those girls were both very hungry, and they wanted to prove that they are on the upper echelon of women's independent wrestling, and I think they did it.
There was a sort of number of circumstances that kind of led to that being a title feud. Like you said, there was the nose breaking incident, and then Mickey Knuckles vacating the title due to her pregnancy as well. And you guys just kind of, like I said, in the roundup this week, to your credit, you guys just rolled with it. I mean, was this the plan to kind of build them up to that level, or did you have other ideas that you thought, like, we're gonna put those to one side and we're gonna go with this instead?
We definitely had other ideas at the time. I think at the time, Cherry Bomb was scheduled to win the women's title, and we had a lot of plans for her. We had we didn't really have a long-term plan for Alison Kay, Mia Yim, anything. That was just kind of something that fell into place because Cherry Bomb didn't show up that day, and we that happened, and we may have a blueprint for something, but I think one of our strong suits is we're able to change that plan on the fly. We can sit down with a piece of paper and map out what we want the next 2 years to be, but you have to be willing to change, and something like that we had no choice but to change and go with it.
Well, the good thing about it was that in Alison Kay and Mia Yim, you had two people who were able to back up your faith and do main events.
It was just it was a perfect storm of things that happened, which sounds horrible because it was a bunch of just crazy things that led to that happening. Like I said, Mickey Knuckles ends up getting pregnant. Cherry Bomb ends up not showing up. I mean, it was just this wild, I guess, a bunch of just crazy circumstances that we could never ever recreate or have planned for, and it was a perfect storm. It was to us, we were stressing out, and we couldn't we had no idea what to do, and it was just kind of something that all fell into place one day. And I owe both of those girls so much, because I fully believe that no matter what the previous Girls Night Out events had, they stepped up and they made us a major player in women's professional wrestling.
Yeah, they followed up the nose breaking with a no rules match at Girls Night Out, which was the match for the title, and then of course they went from there into the Steel Cage Girls Night Out 7, and that was last August. That cage match was a great match. I really enjoyed it. I mean, what were your thoughts going into that? Did you have 100% faith in them, or did you think, God, I hope the cage gimmick gets over? I assume you were very pleased with the outcome.
Oh, I never had a doubt in my mind that they were not going to deliver, especially based on, you know, what they had done the previous two encounters and what it had turned out to be. I knew that, you know, no matter what happened, they were going to deliver because, you know, as much as I wanted them to deliver, they both personally wanted to deliver because, like I said earlier, they're both very, very hungry girls to prove that, you know, they are the top women in the United States right now, if not the world. So I had 100% faith that they were going to go out and they were going to deliver a main event, and they were going to do, you know, they were going to do what they needed to do. You know, I wouldn't even say for AIW. I think they were more doing it for themselves. We were just providing them the platform to do it.
What about that finish, by the way?
That was crazy. I mean, if, you know, I guess I will, you know, let you guys in on a little, you know, insider secret or whatever, but, you know, she had told me that that was her idea, and that's why myself, Johnny Gargano, there were some male wrestlers that were in the back. We kind of went out there as special outside enforcers or whatever, but we were really out there because we didn't want her to die because she, you know, the cage was not up before the event. They did not do anything in that cage until they were in the ring. They had no time to, you know, to come up with anything. That was just, she was like, I'm going to do this. And that's just how it is. And, you know, that was her wanting to do something memorable and something that made her kind of stand out. Which I don't think I've seen a cage match finished so uniquely in my life, and I'll be shocked if I see a cage match that could ever top, you know, what they did to finish that cage match off. And I think it was a perfect finish, you know, to their trilogy of matches.
Yeah, it was an amazing visual. It was just spectacular to watch that thing because, like you said, it just looks so dangerous. And I think that's probably the only way to say it. But I guess in that kind of situation, it did make for a fantastic moment that, you know, we're still talking about now and probably still will be talked about for a long time.
You know, I think I'm pretty sure it was cropped out of the shot, but I've seen a photo, and, you know, when she's leaning back, there's just all of us, you know, all the guys that were at ringside, we just all have our hands in the air thinking she's gonna fall to her death. And it was just to see that right up against the cage, it was insane. It was probably the most insane thing I've seen in professional wrestling, and I've seen a lot of, you know, crazy death matches, you know, things like that. That topped it all because that cage was a legitimate 15 feet in the air, and she just went for it with no regard for her safety at all.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I'd seen obviously this wasn't a show that was an pay-per-view, so I'd heard of what happened. We'd reported it on the website. I'd seen pictures from people there who'd, you know, shown us pictures of the finish. When I got the actual video from you know, the video on demand from Smart Mark, and I watched it, I screamed when she did it because she threw herself back with such, I guess, like you say, disregard. You know, she was so in the moment there. It was incredible. I agree with you. I don't know if I've ever seen a better cage match finish than that.
And, you know, that goes back to what I was saying. Allison Kay wants to prove that she is the girl in the industry, and, you know, she did not care if she got hurt. She wanted to do something that made people remember her, and she definitely did it.
God yes.
I mean, I'd say that a lot of doors were opened by that feud with Mia Yim because, you know, that Girls' Night Out show was taking place roughly around the time that Shine was starting. She's also been in Shimmer. She's also been still a tag champion in WSU, and it just seems like a lot of things fell into place in 2012, and a lot of it's kind of centered around that feud with Mia Yim.
Oh, I agree. You know, and she did a Ring of Honor event recently. She's trying to stay so busy because, like I said, she is just hungry to prove that, you know, she wants to be the top. She wants to be the top girl in this industry. She wants to prove that she is the best. And, you know, me especially, as well as, you know, everyone involved in running AIW, we make no mistake about it. We are in the Allison Kay business. That is our girl, and that is, you know, that we have nothing but faith in her to carry the Girls' Night Out brand.
You're in the Allison Kay business, and business is good. That's what you said.
It is very good, you know, and that just goes to, you know, us kind of, like I said, you know, these Girls Night Out shows have developed into, like a baby to us. Like we handle these events with such care and kind of go over every detail. And for us, 3-4 Girls Night Out events ago, we never thought that anyone was ever gonna top Haley Hatred in our eyes. Haley Hatred was our girl. Haley Hatred, we called her the golden goose of AIW because she did so many things that she did raised our awareness and visibility outside of what we were normally doing. And, to us, she could not be topped. And Allison Kay has gone above and beyond what Haley Hatred did. And in fact, I was speaking with Haley Hatred the other day, and I was just like, it's kind of weird having a Girls Night Out event, and you're not advertised on it, or Sarah Del Rey's not advertised on it. And she was just like, Allison Kay. Allison Kay she's the girl right now. And, to get that endorsement out of Haley Hatred is, person to person, her saying that meant a lot because, to me, I know that Allison Kay is doing a lot of things, but Haley Hatred is all the way over in Japan, existing kind of in her own world. And she is, she's paying attention to Allison Kay and she's following Allison Kay, and she knows, that Allison Kay is just all over the place trying to break out and do everything she can.
The Allison Kay business is good, and it'll probably be good for a long time with all things being even. But you've got this climb the ranks gimmick going on for the ladder match to determine a new number one contender. But who do you see as the next? I mean, do you see anybody on your undercard at the minute that you're sort of thinking, okay, these people are going to be some of the next stars?
I mean, I feel that they all have the tools to to do that. Like a girl like Addie Starr, she hasn't done a lot of things in America. She's developing this kind of underground following. She does some crazy things for ISW, and she's done some Beyond Wrestling things. And she's a girl that very well could turn into a star. She's fairly unknown. I wouldn't say she's totally unknown, but she's a girl that has tools. Sassy Steph has been around for a very, very long time. She's always wanting to break out, break up to that next level. She's done Shimmer, she's done WSU, she's done a lot of things, but I don't think she's achieved what she feels she can achieve. And I think there's definitely potential for her to do that. Leva Bates is a girl that's, she has found, her thing, and people are really, really, really into what Leva Bates does. She's very, very, very good in the ring. She has a lot of marketability with, her always changing her outfits, and she has a great following on social media. All these girls, Veda Scott is a girl that I think has improved tremendously from her first appearance on a Girls Night Out event. She, much like the Girls Night Out, brand, is constantly trying to move forward and better herself. There's so many. Kimberly is another girl who I feel has nothing but tools to be a major player. I know I listened to your guys' Christmas show, and Dave Prazak said he's very interested in bringing her to Shimmer, and I think she's a girl that could definitely you could start seeing her pop up in a lot more promotions and doing a lot more high profile shows. And same goes with Athena. Athena is everywhere. All these girls could be major players, and I think it's an interesting time specifically in women's wrestling. With the departure of Sarah Del Rey, there's a lot of room at the top right now, and I think there's a lot of girls that want those spots.
You mentioned Athena, and I'd like to bring something up. Just it's something that it was an interesting thing that was done for one of the shows last year, and that was the Indiegogo funding project to get her to the show. I mean, I have my own personal opinions on that. I'm not a big fan of the idea of Indiegogo booking and stuff like that, but I mean, tell us about how that came about and how successful that was, because she's back now and she's not being played for by the fans.
That was just 100% the truth behind the whole thing. Is I got a text message and it said, "Hey, this is Athena. I really, really want to do a Girls Night Out event." and it was, I think it might have been 4 or 5 weeks out. We had already used up our allotted budget, which, we were very, very much over based on, we, like I said earlier, we kind of go above and beyond what we think we could pull off, hoping that, the fan support's going to be there. And we looked into her flights and, things like that. And it was just something that we could not, we couldn't realistically do. But we really, really, really wanted to bring her out. So I talked to her and I said, I know that Beyond Wrestling did something like this to bring out ACH for a tournament. I said, would you be okay if we try to do this? And she agreed because she really, really wanted to do it. She had offered to sign 8x10s. We came up with all kinds of different things. And once we put it out there and the fan support was there, we bought the plane ticket, and we were very, very impressed with her that, this time around when we were planning it, we kind of planned for that to be in our budget this time. It was just one of those things that realistically we could not pull off. And it all worked out.
Do you think it's something you'd do again?
It all depends. Like we really, really like to pre-plan. That was just a weird scenario to where, she was seeking us out, and, we didn't want to tell her no. We wanted to make it work. And, we made it work. I can't see us, planning, hey, we want to book whoever, you know what I mean? And coming up with it. I think, I think a lot of people have taken advantage of Indiegogo for the wrong reasons. For instance, there was the Wrestling Revolution project that made over $100,000 and never released anything. So, I think that there are a lot of people that have taken advantage of that. And I think it's kind of given a bad rap to the people that genuinely wanted to use it for something good, which was us just trying to get Athena to our show. But yeah, I really don't think that it's something that we would plan on doing.
I mean, do you think it's at the time I was a bit skeptical of it because I think it's kind of a dangerous road to go down. But like you said, do you think it's that slippery slope that people are just going to say, instead of me sort of budgeting for a show and things like that, I'll just get the fans to pay for it, and then if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But at least I haven't lost anything, and it kind of takes that kind of the business side out of the wrestling business.
And I mean, that's that's not something we wanted to do. Like, I think that we're maybe one of the few wrestling promotions that are very upfront and kind of realistic with our fan base. Like I said earlier in this podcast, we're not going to sit here and tell you, we're doing financially great when we're not. Going into this Friday, we have quite a bit of budget to cover. But I agree that it's a slippery slope. Like, when a company like High Spots, that is a gigantic company, when they're holding a Kickstarter campaign to re-edit something that they've already filmed. I think that's taking advantage of the system and taking advantage of a fan. To where we were just trying to, kind of work with Athena and get her to the show because, she had contacted us. It wasn't like, we contacted her and said, hey, we want to book you, but we just can't afford you. It was one of those rare scenarios to where, someone who was kind of on our list of girls we wanted to book eventually kind of contacted us and sought us out and said, hey, what can we do to make this work? And, that was what we came up with at the time, and it worked. And we gave all the fans everything we promised we were going to give the fans. But I don't see us doing it again just because we don't want to develop that stigma, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
Here's a question for you, something that came up recently in the world of women's wrestling, and I'm just interested to get your thoughts on it, even though it doesn't specifically affect you one way or the other. But I know this is someone that you know and you've worked with in the past, and that's Drew Cordero, who is the owner now of WSU, and he's he's taken some beatings really recently online from some of the former WSU talents who don't work with the company anymore, and they've had a go at his change of direction, and some fans as well. I mean, as someone in his position, as one of his peers, what do you make of sort of some of the criticism that Drew's got of late?
I think it's parts of it are justified and parts of it aren't justified. I think some of these girls should, much like I said with what our issue was with Jessica Havoc, I think some of these girls should contact him instead of launching a giant smear campaign. I talk to Drew Cordero probably 3-4 times a week, on the phone. Drew Cordero, actually, before he was a promoter, he was kind of like an AIW intern. He had worked with us extensively for a year or two when he lived in Ohio. So we have a really, really good relationship. But I think a lot of these girls are kind of using it as a publicity platform for themselves rather than addressing the serious issues that are going on. I know for example, like he was told a lot of things when he purchased WSU, and when he got his hands on the numbers, they weren't the same. They were drastically different, and he wasn't going to go out of his way to lose money and kind of sink himself in the hole to where I think the previous owner would kind of, I don't know if he would lie to the girls necessarily, but I think he would go out of his way to get them there, whether he was using fans to fly them there or whatever. I think Drew doesn't censor himself to where some things should be discussed in private and some things should not be discussed publicly. But like I said, I think some of his criticism is justified because I think some of these girls baited him into some things, and he reacted to them. And I think I think the girls are wrong. I think kind of both ends need to agree to disagree.
Yeah, it's probably fair enough. When we talked about that, I asked that question, I just remember something. I think you put this on Twitter, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But did you say something on Twitter when that whole thing blew up that you had suggested to Drew some sort of idea whereby you would give him some money and basically WSU would get absorbed into Girls Night Out in some sort of angle?
I mean, was
that just you pissing about, or was there something to that?
No, that was 100% true. That was kind of what initially led him to buying WSU. He was going to buy it, and then we were, I was going to split it with him. The entire plan was, he was gonna run a show on the East Coast like normal WSU. We were gonna run a Girls Night Out event in Cleveland, and it was going to eventually lead to, we were going to do, I think it was going to be 3 shows leading to kind of like an invasion thing. We were going to do a giant AIW Girls Night Out versus WSU I pay-per-view. This was our first kind of idea in launching into the pay-per-view business. We were going to do it on the East Coast, and we were going to relocate Girls Night Out to 100% the East Coast.
Okay. Did you think that there's a better market there for it on the East Coast? Is that the reason?
Yeah, I mean Cleveland isn't a giant market, to be perfectly honest. And Drew was on the East Coast, and it was just kind of one of those things that we were going back and forth about. And he kind of had a change of heart about it, and he wanted to try to make it go on his own. So I mean, I guess, to his credit, he could have very well bought that company and dissolved it, which, was something we were discussing in depth. And, he decided that he wanted to make a go at it and, try to make it work, which, he's doing right now. So for a lot of those girls to criticize him, the company could have shut down when, Sean decided to sell it.
Fair enough. Well, let's move forward to the present day then, and let's talk about this Friday, and let's talk about the show. We have Allysin Kay defending the Absolute Women's Championship in the main event against a mystery opponent. Why a mystery opponent? Why not announce this opponent?
We kind of wanted to, we wanted to kind of make this iPay-per-view exciting. Maybe it's a wrong decision, maybe it's a right decision. Personally, when I would watch, a pay-per-view in my early teens or whatever, the things that got me excited were the surprises and stuff like that. We didn't want to treat this like, some iPay-per-views are just the normal show on iPay-per-view. We wanted to kind of add, different elements and, a little bit of mystery to it to kind of, hopefully pique people's interest on who Allysin Kay will be defending her title against.
To play devil's advocate here, I don't know if you're going to be right or wrong with your decision or not, but there's the old school wrestling mentality, which would be if this person is going to draw pay-per-view buys, you would announce them, and if they're not going to draw pay-per-view buys, then why are they in the main event in the first place? So, I mean, do you think the idea of the surprise is worth more than the pay-per-view buys that this person might theoretically buy or might theoretically sell?
I mean, it's something that we have gone back and forth on a lot, and it's just kind of one of those things to where I can't tell you if it's the right decision currently or the wrong decision. You know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
We think that it's a good surprise. We think people will be happy with the surprise, but there's probably definitely going to be people that aren't happy with the surprise. So it's one of those things to where we could announce it and people could really like it, and that could convince these the people that are on the fence to just go ahead and purchase it on Friday night. But it's just it's something we want to try. We want to, like I said, we want to treat this as something different. We don't just want to put a card on paper and that's it. We want to kind of do something a little bit different and add a little bit of mystery and maybe a little bit of unknown to it, and hope that people are interested in that.
It sounds a bit like Christmas. Like when you come down at Christmas morning and you see all your presents under the tree and they're all wrapped up, and you might shake one and you've got an idea about what it might be. I mean, let's say that we were to shake this box about this match and with the mystery opponents. Can we get a clue if we shook this box? Could you give us a little bit of a clue as to who it might be, or are you just keeping your cards very close to your chest?
I think I got to keep them close to my chest. I think I will say that it is somebody that we've discussed on this podcast this evening, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, fair enough.
That's a good enough clue for us.
The interesting thing about it is, we're talking about that mystery opponent for Allysin Kay, but if you consider the Allysin Kay title defense as the main event, which I assume it is, or at least the co-main event along with the four-way ladder match, all four spots in that four-way ladder match are all currently yet to be decided. So in theory, again, just playing devil's advocate for shits and giggles here, but you've got 6 spots at the top of the card, and at the minute the only one that people know is definitely going to be in one of these 2 main events is Allysin Kay. So, like you say, Allysin Kay business, eh?
I'm definitely in the Allysin Kay business. I have 100% faith that she will draw iPay-per-view buys on her own.
I think so.
As a singles competitor, because she primarily wrestles as a tag competitor almost exclusively everywhere. She's exclusively a singles competitor to us, and she wrestles as a tag competitor everywhere. So I think that's enough to generate interest. I think people want to see her wrestle enough to get them to buy this iPay-per-view on Friday night. I agree that it's kind of crazy that the main events of the night aren't technically advertised, but I think that allows people to get invested in the card on Friday night. The first 4 matches are going to be Climb the Ranks qualifiers, so you can watch throughout the night and see how the show develops, and see how the main event comes together. And I think that generates some excitement, especially in the days of social media when everybody can be connected to everybody and people can talk on Twitter and Facebook and talk about the event as it's going on, I think stuff like that generates excitement.
Well, it's a show-long storyline, essentially, isn't it?
Yes, 100%.
We kind of talked about most of them already on the show, but for people who have got this far in the show and they're still sort of not entirely sure on what the card is, run down the 4 Climb the Ranks qualifiers for us, John.
You have Leva Bates taking on Beta Scott. You have Kimberly taking on Athena, which I believe WSU just uploaded a free match of when they met in WSU. So people can kind of get a little taste of their previous encounter. We have Crazy Mary Dobson versus Annie Social, and we have I'm drawing a blank on this one.
Addie Starr versus Sassy Steffi.
Addie Starr versus Sassy Steph. Jeez, you guys are running me through so much content in my brain right now.
Excellent.
But yeah, I think all 8 competitors, any mix or any match of them could make it an exciting main event.
You mentioned Antisocial just briefly, and I'd like to just take a quick moment to say the other non-tournament match or non-Climb the Ranks match is a tag team match with Heidi Lovelace and Nikki St. John against Angel Dust and KC. Heidi Lovelace, Nikki St. John, along with Antisocial and Samuel Giordano, they formed the Social Network on the last show and used Stable in Girls' Night Out. What are you looking for going forward from the Social Network?
I mean, that's just kind of, one of those things where we're trying to, develop more things for the Girls' Night Out brand. So it's not just, a couple matches. We're trying to, develop our own characters and, different kind of stories and things like that. And the Social Network is kind of, our next kind of development. And, as we evolved with, Mia Yim and Allison Kay, becoming main players with a storyline, we don't want there just to be something at the top of the card. So, now we're kind of getting in and, developing things throughout the entire course of a Girls' Night Out event. And, the Social Network was, just another attempt of us, kind of evolving. One of the big things that was requested was, why don't we have any tag teams? And, when we were planning, the last few events, we were trying to come up with different ideas and different tag teams. And, we didn't want to just book, a tag team that's, maybe in Shimmer or something like that. We wanted to kind of develop our own thing. And, the Social Network was our first attempt at that.
I was going to say, yeah, because it's something that's unique to AIW as far as that's concerned. That's not a stable that's competing anywhere else. Right.
It's just it was just us trying to develop, this brand more.
I think the interesting thing about the Social Network, not so much Antisocial herself, but about people like Heidi Lovelace, Sammy Giordano, and Nikki St. John, is essentially they're almost blank canvases as far as some of the quote-unquote larger women's wrestling promotions are concerned. So they have an opportunity here to really sort of carve out a new character and a new sort of direction for themselves.
Right. That was kind of the idea behind it. They're all, relatively new. And to place them with a veteran who's been around like Antisocial, I think, we'll get more eyes on them. And it gives them something to kind of sink their teeth into rather than, maybe if they're appearing on another show, it's just going to be Heidi Lovelace in a match. She doesn't really necessarily have a character or, something that she can develop. This is giving them an opportunity to develop something and, kind of get into a character and figure out what they are and what they want to do. And I think placing them with Antisocial, who's been around for quite a number of years, is only going to benefit them.
Now, I know we spent much of the last hour sort of hyping it, but I mean, as we draw this interview to an end, give us the final push, give us the final the final sort of promotional angle here. Why should people put down some money at Smart Mark Video this Friday?
Because I believe 100% that our Girls' Night Out events have always been an evolution of, moving forward and developing and becoming its own unique brand to the women's professional wrestling genre. And I think that Friday night is going to be no different. I think this by far, with what we have planned with, the mysteries and the main events and, everything that we have locked down on the card top to bottom, I think this is by far on paper our best offering to date. I think that this is going to be something that, much like Allison Kay and Mia Yim kind of brought more eyes on us. I think this is going to be to where people start paying attention to the Girls Night Out events. I think this is something, that's going to make people really, really want to seek out maybe past Girls Night Out events and kind of see, where we started and what we've turned into. I think this is, 100% going to be our very, very, very best Girls Night Out show to date. I have nothing but faith in all the girls on the card. I have nothing but faith in the mystery on the card, and I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed.
It's not going to be Savio Vega then, no?
I mean, I can't say.
It's worth an ask. So yes, for anybody who's still on the fence, thinking about it and wants to know any more, www.aiwrestling.com, or to order the show, www.smvod.com, or click the rotating GIF you will find down the right-hand side of any of the Ring Bells pages. John, listen, thanks a lot for this. It's been a fun chat to talk to somebody who has got a unique perspective on the business, and who has really had someone who's had their opinion changed over the years towards women's wrestling to the point now where you're a big proponent of it, and we certainly appreciate that. Good luck for the show on Friday.
Thank you guys so much for all your help. Getting the word out for our first iPay-per-view. Like I said, it's something we're very nervous about. We're very, very stressed out about today, and I'm hoping on Friday night everyone is satisfied with the final product.
All right. Well, once again, thanks very much, John, and for all the listeners, we will be back soon, coming in your ear when you least expect it.